Hello, welcome back to Severe MMA. My name is Ian O'Neill, and today I'm joined by Decky McAleenan from Team Torres in Newry. Decky is fighting in Cage Warriors 125 next weekend, Saturday, June 26th, against Stevie McIntosh on the main card of that. Decky, how are you doing, man? Thanks for taking the time to talk to us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm doing great. How's things? All good?
All good over here. All good over here, man. Happy Father's Day to you. I know you became a dad last year as well. And how was that
Thanks.
day? Were you getting wined and dined for the day?
The water load starts today, so it's just Father's Day can be next Sunday for me.
Yeah. How has that transition been, becoming a dad and integrating that into your life with your training and stuff like that? Has it been a big transition for you?
No, it's hard to call really because like the child was 7 weeks old when we went into lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a massive change to everyone's life. So coming out of that lockdown was kind of an adjustment in itself. So I don't know if that was a hassle or what it was, but it just seemed to be normal to get back training and have a child because we were off for a while,
Yeah,
so it just became normal to do it.
I guess those adjustments will probably come down the line as well. With during the lockdown, last time you were on with us, I guess you were on with Andy. That was in and around the Adam Ventura fight. When you were chatting to Andy there.
Yeah.
How have things been? Since then you've been in there with Kieran Lister. That was a draw. What are your thoughts surrounding that fight there? It was a pretty close first round. You got a pretty dominant second round, and then you may have pipped the third round. I was just wondering, you've probably watched it back a few times. What was your assessment on that fight?
The assessment on the fight really was, it depends who's watching it. I've always said I'm out to try and finish fights down and not winning on people's opinions. Mm-hmm. And if you score that fight as a fight itself, hands down, I win it every day of the week. But because there's certain rule sets and different people like different things, so certain people that score positions more and certain people score other things more damage than that. Personally, I think I done enough to win. Honestly, I won the first round and won the second round. He obviously won the third just with control. Mm-hmm. Same again, it's down to your own personal sort of opinion. What scores more? I won the clinch, got the takedown, landing knees, landing elbows. He had nothing for me in the first round, and then exactly 2.5 minutes, he swept me on the bottom and just stalled out on top of me. So that exactly it was 2.5 minutes on the button. So it was exact from me doing damage and landing shots to 2.5 minutes of him stalling on top of me. So that's my own fault for allowing it to happen, really. But it's just one of them things now. It sort of pushed that wee bit of reassurance in myself that you're going in there against these boys that are meant to be great, and all they have for you is trying to stall. He's another boy that's meant to be a decent striker, has put on some good performances, and all he had was trying to hold me down. So
yeah. That seems to have been a trend for your kind of career so far, and something that you've mentioned in interviews before, where you've had to make some adjustments to your game in order to kind of counteract the people who want to maybe stall or who don't want to stand and bang with you, and they change up their style as such. I guess I just want to talk a little bit about that Lister fight in the second round where you clipped him and you almost had him out of there. And I've heard you mentioning before in other interviews, and you mentioned it in the interview with Andy the last time you were on, where you're working towards guys stopping stalling, but you're also concentrated on not rushing to get a finish in fights, and rather than rushing to get finishes. And he said that by rushing to get finishes in other fights, it may have cost you in other fights as well. So rather than rushing to get the finish, you're more concentrated now on winning rounds. So I was just wondering, did that mentality kind of come forward in that second round of that fight, where actually, I'm not saying that you didn't go to try and finish him, but was there a stage where you thought maybe you might not get him out of there and you kind of took the foot off the gas a little bit? Or just wondering what you're thinking around.
I certainly what I meant by that was that I used to just go out hunting for the finish, as in exposing myself in certain areas, looking for something that's not there. But against Leicester, against Kieran, the opening sort of came up. So if I do get the chance to finish someone and put them away, like with the opportunity I had against him, I'd be going balls to the wall to get it. Like, he done well, obviously, to survive, but he made a couple of like minor adjustments which made it hard for me to get clean shots off and made it easier for him to sort of defend himself, intelligently defend himself. So it was good on his behalf of what he was able to do. A big part of that fight came down to, like, my grappling wasn't up the scratch, to be honest with you. I'd say it was I think it was 6.5 weeks out from the fight, I tore my hamstring, and there was no, like, we couldn't grapple at all. So it was kind of a case of, he was a very good grappler, my grappling wasn't where it should have been, and he was able to sort of, like, as I said, do enough. I think there was at one stage I had his chin. Whenever we sort of got into a wee bit of a messy scramble, I had his chin and I was thinking about going for the guillotine. But by the time I thought of it and went, he had already defended it. Whereas, really and truthfully, I should be finishing that before I even think about it. As soon as I feel the chin, I should be like, So it's just, it is what it is. We came out of this.
It did, like, I didn't know too much about your injuries and stuff like that. So, like, in hindsight, it was a pretty damn good performance, all things considering. Like, and you mentioned your jiu-jitsu wasn't where it needed to be in that fight, but in previous fights before that, like, there's definitely been a jump. And, like, what people like to say is, like, you see fighters leveling up each fighter. And I think, especially with you, Decky, over your last couple of fights, we've noticed the difference in a leveling up. And obviously you've come from a karate background and integrated into mixed martial arts. And how important has been, like, the work you've been doing in your kind of wrestling and jiu-jitsu side of things to give you confidence on the ground, and that kind of lets you open up on the feet a little bit more too. Like, so, because I know you, like, in a couple of years back, you had that double set of losses, and did you have to kind of take some time off, reassess things there, or what kind of changes did you make? Because you've come back and you've looked like a new fighter after those 2 losses, really.
Yeah, the 2 losses were just a bad stage of sort of my career. They came, just didn't come at the right time. That I have made an awful lot of changes. As I said, I was just used to finishing people. I got the 5-1 on a 5-fight winning streak, and I must have got a bit cocky or something. I thought that, honestly, if you take me down, I'll submit you. If you stay on your feet with me, I'll knock you out. And a lot of time, well, not a lot, every fight, that's what happened. So I kind of let that get in my head a little bit, I think. And I was going out, well, it was just like, it doesn't matter, I'll find a way to finish this fight. And then it was against the Aimable that I had realised, just as the buzzer went in the 3rd round, I still remember that fight as clear as day, up until, like, the last couple of seconds, we had a bit of a scramble against the cage, and I tried to jump for an armbar, still looking for the finish. And after that, I was sort of left standing. Whenever I went back to the corner, kind of going like this. I made a balls. Just like I haven't won, and I knew, like, hands down, that I didn't win, and I was kind of I couldn't accept the fact of that I hadn't finished him either. That sort of way. Like it didn't sink in that, right, the fight's over, you haven't got the finish, and you haven't done enough to win any round. So then we went back to the drawing board. I had surgery I think it was about 7 or 8 days after that fight. And then we just sort of sat back and sort of evaluated everything what needed done, and took the Mearns fight. That's a fight I don't think I lost, to be honest with you. That was round 1 was all him, round 2 was 50-50, and round 3 was all me. So as what I said with Kieran, that's my problem. That's my fault for leaving it to a decision. But from that, then I've never went on a 2-fight like losing streak, never in any sport. So with that happening, I just went back and was like, here, at the end of the day, like, I'm probably the worst stage of my career, worst stage of any sporting career that I've had. And the people that matter to me, honestly, don't care. Don't like I'm the same person and the same everything. So then it was like, fuck it, just go and have fun. So enjoy your training. Enjoy this here. Train to learn. Fight to win. Don't fight to finish. People, do what you enjoy. And then just sort of, you can hold your head high, John, and just get on with it.
And it surely had, like, in my opinion, I think I've seen like you jump as a fighter in leaps and bounds over your last couple of fights, and I'm really excited to see you get in there on this Saturday against Stevie McIntosh. And just to go and talk about that fight a little bit, how do you see yourself matching up with Stevie in that fight?
That's a perfect matchup for me. So it is. Everything, even down to the size of his frame, is style-wise and everything. That's perfect. Stevie, like, if we want to give him credit, he's a finisher. Sort of kill or be killed. He's got 6 wins, 2 losses. Every fight's been a finish. Let's look on paper then for my record. The only losses I've had, bar one, throughout my 20-odd fights in MMA have come from submission. Has come from a finish. No one can finish me. Whenever I'm 100% in that cage, no one can finish me. So if we're going in and he's got 100% finish or be finish rate, and I'm coming to finish him, there's only one of us walking out of that. Like, I think on paper this is for me to take easy. Like,
yeah. So you're approaching this fight not planning on hearing the final bell. Then would I be right in saying that?
No, I can't. I approach every fight not looking to hear a final bell, but I'm sure with Stevie being that bit bigger and stuff, and being able to maybe match up all right with me, sort of reach wise, that we'll get a bit of a scrap, and I can't see him being able to stay standing. Like,
yeah. So you're in the lightweight division. You've picked up titles before at Cumier and also at Cage Legacy at the featherweight class. You're obviously in Cage Warriors lightweight division now. You have your eyes on the title, which is a pretty shit hot division right now in Cage Warriors. There's been a lot of additions in there and a lot of good fights going on the trilogy as well. It's like, how do you feel about the lightweight division, or what's the outlook? How do you see yourself in the title picture if you were to get the win against Stevie next Saturday?
The lightweight division is by far like one of the best. You know, like, there's the featherweight division at the minute's quite good as well, but in that top 5 or 6 in the lightweight division, like, any one of us could win that title any given day. Do you know, there's a serious squad. Unfortunately, it's going to be like an all-Irish sort of like wipeout, I think, like, where it's going to, I think Paul wins his next fight against Mehdi. I think Joe beats Sadari. And I don't know what the relationship between the two boys is like, whether they'd fight or not. But if there's a world title on the line, I'm sure they can put that aside. And then I think after that, if that goes to plan, I think after that, then I'll have one more fight, and then that'll be me for the title then. Yeah,
because you're saying in around the Adam Venture fight that, you know, with a win there, you'd maybe want 1 or 2 fights, and then you'd be looking at the title as well. Obviously, the pandemic has come in and kind of put a scupper on those plans, but like, you're still thinking maybe this fight, 1 more fight, and then you'd be looking for the title shot as well.
Yeah, like, this is now for this will be my 4th fight with Cage Warriors at lightweight, and I've yet to be beat. Yes, I drew, but that's not for anything. If you watch that fight back, that's not a loss. That's just me staying in the same spot. It hasn't pushed me back anywhere. So I would have thought if I beat Kieran, if I had finished Kieran in the 2nd round, I would have had someone this time round and then fought for the title. But because of that decision, it has just pushed me back one fight. Like, I get the win in this, and then that's the title eliminator.
Is there any particular reason why that rematch didn't go down with Lister? Was it offered at all, or was it just you just didn't want to do that again, or would you be looking at maybe taking him on again, maybe in the future fight or something like that? Or
listen, any of them in the lightweight division at all, at any stage, I'm happy enough to fight. But talking to Ian and between him talking to Ian and me talking to Ian and John again, whatever Cage Warriors had planned, it wasn't a fight that needed to be run straight back, thrown straight away. And then I think Kieran's not actually, I think he has something up that he's not actually fighting this show. So if I go now and beat Stevie, fighting Kieran on the next show, it doesn't really do anything for me at that stage. So we're kind of, hopefully we meet maybe for the title eliminator or a title shot. Like, that would be great. But I can't see it. Like, I think it's a step back in both of our careers. Like,
yeah, understandable. Would you still have eyes on the featherweight division, Decky? Or are you very happy and contented at the lightweight division right now? Do you feel that, is there much of a difference between you as a featherweight fighter and you as a lightweight fighter? Is it a tough cut for you, or do you feel that it takes a little bit out of you, or what's your thought process on that?
Doesn't really make much of a difference. Like, I'd make featherweight if I had to. Personally, I think I have, now don't get me wrong, I have grown a good bit and put on a bit of muscle, so it wouldn't be as easy to get the featherweight. But I could happily make both of them. And the only reason that I'll go to featherweight is if I get the right fight, the right money. The main reason for fighting at lightweight is having the energy and time to spend with the child. You turn into a grumpy old shite, so you do whenever you're fighting at featherweight. Weeks out, and having a wee one there that might decide one night that she doesn't want to sleep. And so having that fuel in every training session and fighting at lightweight is the way forward at the minute. As I said, obviously, if the right fight comes, if a big fight comes, or the bigger shows and big money, then yes, I'll put my body back through that. But until then, I'm happy at lightweight, and I'm big enough at lightweight.
It's all eyes on the lightweight title in the lightweight division for now. And you mentioned how you thought Paul Redmond's fight with Mehdi would go, and you think Joe will be successful as well. If it was a thing maybe that one of those guys would be holding the belt at the time you would get your opportunity, how would you feel about taking on another Irishman for that title? Would it matter to you? I know Joe was on with Sean there last week. He was a little hesitant about it, but when the title is there and everything is real, how would you feel if you were offered that fight? Just say if someone like Joe was holding the title, or maybe Paul was holding the title and it was offered to you, would you hesitate at all about taking that fight, or would it matter because you just want that title around your waist?
I'd say me and Paul have sort of no to be no issue with the two of us going at it. Like, I don't even know if I'd say hello to him. I know him to see, that's the height of our conversation. Me and Joe are mates. We were training partners. He was linked in with Team Torres whenever he was doing his jiu-jitsu and that. So there is a bit of a history there. Like, so it wouldn't be the nicest way to win a world title. So, but hopefully it doesn't come to making that decision.
Yeah. there's enough competition there. Has there been any talks of maybe a possible tournament that may go on or anything like that, or are they just looking to match these guys up and just are they like, because they've put tournaments together before? They've done it with the welterweight tournament, Ian Gary's fight, who's going to headline the card that you're on as well. So that would you be, if you're offered a kind of a tournament or anything like that, I guess you would probably take it with open hands because it's your quickest route to the title, I guess. There hasn't been any talks or anything like that with Cage Warriors about anything like that, no?
No, there's been no sort of talks of tournaments, just down to the fact of, I'd say maybe if Sadari does beat Joe, I can't see him hanging about for much longer. I think that'll be his third defense, would it?
Yeah, it would. Yeah, like, it would. He definitely would be knocking on the door of the UFC for sure. Yeah.
So maybe if he beats Joe, then there might be a chance of that becoming a vacant title, and then that would open up a tournament. But Joe beats him, I can't see them run the tournament with a champion already. So maybe no. I can't. I don't.
Yeah, I probably would agree with you when you say that too. Yeah, it probably wouldn't make too much sense to do that. Just the tournament
in the morning. Like I've done it before. They're good crack. Like they're a good experience. So that's two of my one of my quickest finishes actually came from a tournament. My last amateur fight. So they are good experience though.
Yeah, crazy. You were probably fighting on multiple times in the one night. Was it that one of those style tournaments as well? Yeah.
First and second fight of the night, and then the main event.
Crazy. Just to talk a little bit about the main event on your card, Ian Gary and Jack Grant. How do you see that fight going?
If you have money to bet, it's hard to bet against Ian. You know, he's like, look at what he done to the last lad who was meant to be done like his toughest test, and then it's like, as I said, if you have the money there to bet, it's hard to bet against him. Like, you know, he's so good. Jack, don't get me wrong, is very good in certain areas, but Ian just seems to put it all together in every area. Yeah,
for sure. I won't keep you for too much longer now, Decky, and thanks for coming on. Just ask you a couple of more questions. Just to go back to your own fight and Stevie McIntosh, do you have a direct prediction on how you think that fight is going to go?
I'm going to take his head off his shoulders, so I'm winning by knockout.
Knockout first, second, third round, doesn't matter, whenever it comes?
I'd say it'd be end of the first, early second.
Cool. I just wanted to ask you, you're trying to set up a promotion in and around before the pandemic, and we were talking a little bit about that. Your championships, is that right? Is that correct? Yeah. Do you still have plans to do that? And once the pandemic lifts, obviously you can't do nothing right now in under current conditions, but things are starting to open up again. Is that on your radar maybe for next year?
Yeah, just as soon as I can run that thing, the sooner I get it over and done with at this stage, the better. Yeah. I think the pandemic got me maybe 4 days shy of having the show. Like, John, if I done everything by the book for that, first time that I actually had the time with the child being born to take a bit of time away from fighting and take a bit of time away from fighting and get everything sorted and have everything done, like, planned out. And everyone talked of the stress of running an MMA show and all that kind of carry on. And I wouldn't be an organised person, but I had everything, everything done just before Christmas. So that coming, running into January and February, all I had to do was promote the show. Yeah. And I think I got one pull out maybe 2 weeks out from the fight, and that was replaced within minutes because of so many people looking on. Yeah. So then that was grand, and COVID hit, and that was the second hiccup of the show. So it was, FEI, they had a show, I think, the last weekend in February or the first weekend in March. So it didn't go the same weekend as them, just so there was enough space for everyone. Yeah. Then Cage Legacy was the next weekend. So there was no point then going against Cage Legacy either because they've done enough for me. And if I had just went that weekend, that was the weekend the South shut. Yeah. So Cage Legacy got shut the week before us. So if I had just went against them, at least we would have got a show on
You
that
would have got
weekend.
show on, yeah.
But I think we got closed down on a Monday or Tuesday, and my show was the Saturday.
Right, Jesus. So that's still on your radar anyway. You're going to probably aim to put something together. What would be what would be the goal of that promotion for you? Like, what would you be trying to shine a light on, more amateur fighters or amateur and professional? Like, what would be the goal of setting up that promotion? What do you want to achieve with that promotion?
As throughout my amateur career, I've just seen I've been blessed enough to be like a ticket seller. You know that a lot of promotions put me on the shows because I could sell tickets. Number one, I could sell tickets, and number two, like I had a fan friendly style. So like that's both boxes ticked. If you're looking at a fighter, like someone is going to sell you tickets, someone it's going to get you re-highlights. Like so, whenever I left, sort of fighting locally and signed with Cage Warriors, I thought that was maybe the time where I've had enough of a name built for myself around the town that if I put everyone on the card from my gym and not one of them sell a ticket, I should be able to sell the show myself. I should be able to promote the show myself. So that just my plan with that overall is to give Newry's an ideal spot. Like it's 40 minutes from Belfast, an hour from Dublin. Mm-hmm. Like it's right slap bang in the centre. So there's enough businesses and that around here that have looked after me. It's time to start like sort of don't giving back and giving all the boys that don't get early in their pro careers and don't get the start because they won't sell tickets or they're being given the wrong fights just to be taken in to fight and a more experienced boy that's selling tickets on their local show. And also just to give our amateurs the platform to fight like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. Well, hopefully that gets off the ground for you, and I'd gladly have you on to chat about that when it does happen anyway. And I wish you the best luck with it because the fucking Irish MMA scene is crying out for promotions and for fights now as well. And I'm sure that if you do get that off the ground, that it will be a success as well because it'd be a great platform for young fighters to get onto that show. And with the likes of yourself, who's been there and done that as well, you'll be giving everybody good guidance there and everything like that. Well, that's about it. I have Decky. Thanks very much for joining us. Is there anybody that you want to shout out? How the kind of people find you on social media? Any sponsors that are looking after you ahead of this fight? The floor is yours, man.
Yeah, no, I'd just like to thank all my sponsors. I'll just tag everyone at the end, so I don't miss anyone out. But my two main sponsors are Our Kings Competitions and the McAllister Group. And then we give the rest of them a wee tag.
Nice, yeah. You can send them on to me too if you need to, and I can do that for you as well. But yeah, you have some merch as well. You have some pretty cool T-shirts as well. I really like your T-shirt.
Yeah, Coffee and Camara's got me sorted out with all that stuff, and T-shirts and tracksuits and everything. Turn into designer. The fighting there you are
now. So if the fighting doesn't work out for you, you might make it as a model or something like that. Hey.
No, not a model. Get someone else to model the stuff now.
Yeah. Tell me this: are you going to be hitting up Unreal now when you get back to Newry?
I've already. They were closed there, so I didn't even get one after the last fight. I don't think.
All right.
They opened there, I think 2 weeks ago, and just the first thing I seen was messaging back and forth on Instagram to get it sorted. So I'll be back in there next Sunday.
Sweet. Well, that's it, Decky. Well, you'll see Decky fighting next Saturday night on June 26th, taking on Stevie McIntosh and the main card of Cage Warriors 125. Thanks once again, Decky, for joining us and speaking to us.